pool didn't have anything in it. To be quite honest, we were kind of disappointed, kind of bummed out when we saw the pool. We thought, all right, it's a pool, we'll make it work. So we came to Independence, and it's been great ever since. And both of our kids, like I said, are on swim team. So we came in June and got our kids signed up for swim team. They came in late in the season, but it was a great way for them to meet other kids, so that was all fine and dandy. But then we found out that it's not a regulation size pool, so everything that they did didn't count. And not only that, but as a parent for someone on swim team, there's nowhere to sit. You're sitting outside the fence trying to watch your kids swim. And because of the obstruction of views, it's almost impossible to see. So that was disappointing too. It's great to have a pool, but it's only as good as what the pool is. In our previous community that we moved here from, there was no pool. We would drive 10 minutes north, and that's where they did swim team at. We could drive about 20 minutes to the west, and there was another pool there. There was another pool 45 minutes away to the east. Now, my kids, for the sake of my sanity, because I was getting them up at 6 o'clock in the morning, we did swim team 10 minutes to our north. But we did not go to that pool during the day to hang out. That pool was not built to really accommodate a family. It was very hard to watch your kids. You couldn't be in one end of the pool and see the other kids that are going to diving boards and going on the slides. The bathhouse was disgusting. It was, kids were not allowed to use the restroom in there. It was just gross. The other pool that was to our west was beautiful. If you were to be outside and you saw that pool, it's gorgeous. Had all kinds of great features. But the one thing they didn't think about when they built that pool was how many people are going to use it. The pool's capacity and for the number of people there, they didn't mesh. So when you're at that pool, you can't find your kids. There's too many people for the size of that pool. It's not safe. But this pool that was 45 minutes away, it was great. It was built for families. It was spacious. You could have great lines of sight. No matter where you were at, you could see your kids. There was a zero depth entry, and as you heard before, I'm a nurse, so I'm into safety. I want to make sure everyone's safe, and to see people with disabilities able to use the pool because it's ADA accessible and has a zero depth entry. So it wasn't an issue for them to get into the water and to utilize the water. It was fantastic. They have my one child was too little to get in the deeper end, but I could sit outside and I could watch her play in the pool that was deep enough for her while my other one was going down the slides. And I was right in the middle of it, and I could see them wherever they were at. So we would drive 45 minutes to this pool. I can also tell you in this town where Dairy Queen is. I can tell you where the Subway is. I can tell you where the Hardee's is. I can show you the best bakery where they have these little puff pastries that are filled with cream that you would die for. But the problem is I shouldn't know where any of those places are because I shouldn't have been shopping at any of those places. I should have been in my own community. But I spent my money and my time in this community instead of my own. Instead of the communities that were right around me, because that's where I felt safe with my kids. So, do we need a pool? You betcha. We need to have a pool. It's going to help draw families in. We, as a young family, looked for a community with a pool. Before we moved here, we went to communities with pools. So to draw in those younger families, just like Katie said, you need to have that pool. It needs to be safe, and it needs to be done right. Again, my husband's a minister. We're going to leave at some point. We won't be here forever. But this is where my kids are growing up. So I now have my 6th graders now a freshman in high school, and my 3rd graders now in 6th grade. And we take them all over the place for vacations. And they talk about where they want to live someday. And they both say, we don't want to live in a big city. We want to be in Independence. That's how they're talking now. And I hope that continues. I hope that they always feel that Independence is their home. And if this is where they want to come back to and raise their families, because this is where they grew up. This will be their hometown. This is what they're going to remember. So if we want those young families to come back someday, if we want our kids to bring their families here, we need to make sure we have those awesome schools and those awesome pools and that awesome community that brings back those good memories so they want to return. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you for having us this evening. One of the biggest questions that you get faced when you start dealing with a project like this is what do we build and where do we build it? So let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. When we started talking about the current pool and where to build it, first thing we did is, or when we started talking about future aquatic center, first thing we did is let's look at the pool that we have now. What are the likes? What are the dislikes? Well, one list was obviously longer than the other. Our current pool, what we liked about it is how it's centrally located in the community. It's in, for lack of a better term, part of the central corridor of the town, which makes it accessible to pretty much everyone in all four corners of Independence. Not just by a car, obviously, but you have a lot of youngsters, a lot of youth that are getting there by bicycle or walking. And the streets, pretty much wherever you live in Independence, to the current location, you can pretty much take it all on back roads. You don't have to worry about your kids crossing too many busy thoroughfares. The dislikes, as Heather mentioned, next to impossible to find. I lived here for a year and a half, maybe 2 years before I ever figured out where it was. I never really went looking for it, but all of a sudden it dawned, okay, that's where it was. And I happened to find it because my wife and I started going to football games. There's no visibility for main traffic areas. One of the best advertising methods you can have for your pool is to be able to see it. Well, this one is hidden way back in the corner. Nobody knows it's there, and nobody knows what we have to offer. The street in front of the entrance to the pool is very narrow. And during high traffic times, whether it be for a swim team practice or swim lessons, you have a lot of people coming, a lot of people going, a lot of cars dropping off, a lot of cars picking up, a lot of little bodies running back and forth in front of the mall. It's a cringe-worthy situation, to put it mildly. So that is one thing that we need to address. And then if you are going to go there and stay for a while, you're parking down around the corner, or you're parking over by the high school. If you're lucky, you might get a spot on the street. If you're a parent with a couple of young children, it makes it a real issue for that. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to pick a place where it would be in that central corridor that we talked about. Again, being accessible to whether you're on foot traffic, bicycle, or you're driving your kids there. We wanted it to be easy to find, so you wouldn't have to ask for directions and say, take a left at this, go behind this, and around the corner to that. We wanted to make it in such a way so that we would have a good, even flow in and out. And if at all possible, we wanted to make decent parking. So we started looking at a lot of locations around town. Among the locations we considered was Fourth Ward Park, which most people know as Sandburr Hill. It was nice because it was the center of town. It was easily accessible. Parking situation would not be very good because of the narrowness of the streets. Would not be very visible. Wasn't exactly the easiest to find, and we felt that was kind of hemmed in by the neighborhood. We looked at the area around Veterans Park. Center of town, good visibility. That area is prone to flooding, so that kind of rules that out. And when you start talking flooding, that also rules out Riverwalk Park area, Third Ward Park, and JC Park. All those places, at some point in time, the next couple of years, they're going to go underwater because they do every couple of years, it seems like. We also thought, you know, okay, maybe we should look at areas that are accessible, it might be accessible to us that is not currently publicly owned. And we talked about some areas out on Iowa Avenue, which would be next to the new high school. They have great visibility. We could create our own parking lot, pickup zones, drop-off zones. It'd be very easy to find, but it would only be really accessible to a small portion of the community. People in 3/4 of the town, they would have to cross a busy road. There would not be as many side streets for kids to get to. It'd be difficult for pedestrian traffic because that was, you know, on the westernmost edge of town, and we weren't even sure if the land would be available to us. We also discussed what would happen if we just tore down the current location and built what we wanted on this spot, because that's property that we already own. It solves none of our dislikes, and it would require the closure of the pool for almost a full year. If you were to start tearing into it as soon as the pool closes, the new facility would not be open until probably late July, early August of the following year. And then, where do we have lifeguards? Because all our lifeguards have already found summer employment. So we would almost lose a full calendar year pool operation, full calendar year of swim lessons and everything like that. We spent a lot of time going over a lot of possibilities and a lot of ideas. And what the committee came up with is what we feel is the best location for a new Independence Aquatic Center is to be built on the property which is currently occupied by the south wing of the old Independence High School. This meets or exceeds all of our criteria. It's in the central corridor of town, can be reached by foot, bicycle, or car from all four corners of Independence. The street directly in front of the proposed area is a one-way street, which will help with the flow and the congestion. There's already a parking lot in place. It'd be easy to find. It's right off of Highway 150. In fact, not only is it easy to find, it's highly visible because as you cross the 3rd Street Bridge, you look over and it's right there. In our discussion, when we're talking about what to build and where to build it, we asked Mr. Burbeck to design a facility with all the options that we wanted on it. And we were pleased to find that this fits perfectly in the space that we discussed. Twice, we also went to the site and toured the old high school and toured the grounds. And not only does it fit on paper, but as you get out and walk the facility, it fits perfectly. When we started, everybody had a best case scenario in our minds. This is probably better than our best case scenario, and which is why this committee is so excited about this. So we determined placing a new Independence Aquatic Center in this location provides a wealth of additional opportunities for the city, and it offers a tremendous long-term value. And I'll turn that over to Dan, and he will give you the rest of the details, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Nate.
While you guys are setting that up, Nate, fast question, when you talk about from the south end of the high school, does it stay up on top of that hill, or does it down, or what?
Well, actually, Dan's got that all figured out.
Okay.
I'll let him handle that.
Well, as you can see tonight, I'd like to share a couple different versions of the proposed aquatic center. Version 15 and 16, as we talked, a version for every month that we've been at it. So,
should I move that for you guys? That'd be helpful.
Do what?
Should I move this for you guys so you can see? I'll see what.
I'm going to go over it for the public stands.
Okay.
First of all, I'd like to go over with you how we chose the size of our new location. We went to the U.S. Census Bureau and got some numbers. Our approximate city population, 6,100. Surrounding population contribution, the 8,200, with a total service population of around 13,000. Took 5% of that total and come up with 1,715 occupants. A peak capacity at 85% would be 680. With that being said, 15 square foot per person, we have to have a 9,116 square foot facility. Those numbers, they don't mean a lot to me saying those numbers. So as a committee, we took a look at some area facilities. We went out and polled 3 towns near the same size of Independence, and then a couple smaller ones. The first town that I'd like to tell you is Owine. Their square foot is 8,742 of their pool. Manchester's total square foot is 7,200. Vinton's total square foot was 7,600. And then the 2 smaller facilities that we looked at, just getting rough ideas of what they had, Winthrop is 3,600 and Fairbank is 5,700. Now our current pool, the main vessel is 7,200 square foot, and with the additions in 1988, it took it up to 9,090 square foot with our current facility. First first version I'm gonna talk to you about is version 15, and we come up with a total square foot on both versions of 8,007. And the reason that we're able to shrink that square footage a little bit is because of the layout and multi-purpose of our zero depth entry pool. First of all, the first version that I'm gonna talk to you about is the reuse of the existing high school building in the basement. Basically, everything from, there's a driveway that goes in between that comes from the back of the shop, so everything from the shop south would come off of that, and the lower half of the building would be reused for the aquatic center's bathhouses. Some of the benefits to reusing the building, we've had quite a bit of people saying that saving the gym, it would be great for the community, another great spot to hold events. One of the things about a bathhouse is when you build a new bathhouse and it costs $1 million and you only use it 3 months a year, that it's a pretty big investment for 3 months. If it's inside that building, we're also gonna get some reuse out of it through the gym. So you're gonna be able to use that maybe possibly year round. One of the things that worked out really well is as you come out of that basement level of the high school today, it'll be at the current level of the new pool, with the same depth or the same height as the new deck. As Nate mentioned, also this facility and both versions will be really nice because we'll also have the parking lot, which you can't see real well, but that southwest parking lot of the school is already existing. So we won't have to go out and do another parking lot to get started with this. Also, the mechanical room and the concessions will be in the basement of the facility. As many of you know, pumps and motors and pipes and things like that would do a lot better inside somewhat of a controlled environment. So, with that being said, I already explained a little bit about the southwest. You can see the main entrance of the building.